The moment I stepped into Lessons, Chicago's only 3 Michelin-star gem, a voice sliced through the murmur of fine dining like a knife through butter. Well, Sarah Bennett. This isn't exactly your usual haunt, is it? I froze mid-step, my heels clicking to a halt on the polished marble as I turned to face the source. There, lounging at a corner table like he owned the place, was Jake Carter, glass of Bordeaux in hand, smirk plastered across his face. Beside him sat a woman easily 20 years his senior, draped in flawless Prada, a diamond the size of a walnut glinting on her finger. "Jake," I said, forcing my voice to stay cool despite the sudden jolt of nerves tightening my chest. "Fancy running into you here." "Fancy indeed," he shot back, his gaze raking over my tailored blazer and skirt with a judgment he didn't bother hiding. "Don't worry. The staff here are pros at dumbing down the menu for rookies. Though I doubt you'll get the artistry. Remember when you thought Olive Garden was peak Italian?" The woman shifted in her seat, looking uneasy. "Jake, don't be rude," she murmured, but he waved her off with a dismissive pat. "Just catching up with an old pal, Eleanor. Sarah and I go way back. Dated in college before I leveled up. I'm Sarah Bennett, 30, and up until that smug little ambush, I'd been savoring the prospect of a quiet business dinner at Lessons. My day had been a whirlwind, finalizing a new product launch that had doubled my company's revenue in the last year. And I'd earned this. What I hadn't signed up for was a reunion with the guy who'd gutted my heart 7 years ago, now clearly playing arm candy to a rich widow. "Madam, your table's ready when you are," the maitre d' whispered, smooth as silk. Jake arched a brow. "Dining solo? Bold move for someone who used to need me to order her coffee." "Actually," I started, but he steamrolled me. "Let me guess, you're here to schmooze? Still chasing that foodie dream with your little blog?" His laugh was a jagged edge meant to cut. "Word of advice, Sarah. This place is for winners, not wannabes." Eleanor looked mortified now. Jake enough. But the damage was done. In a flash, I was 23 again, the insecure culinary school dropout who'd bought his line that I'd never make it without him. The girl who'd sobbed for weeks after he ditched her for someone with fancier connections. "Your usual spot by the kitchen window is set, Miss Bennett," the maitre d' said, louder this time. "Chef Lawrence eager for your take on his new tasting menu." Jake's smirk flickered. Before I could fire back, my phone buzzed. A text from Lucas. "Running 10 minutes late. Order the Cru Grande for us. Don't let anyone steal my wife before I get there." I glanced at my left hand, where a sleek platinum band now sat, and caught Jake's eyes zeroing in on it. His face twitched, recalculating. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Jake and I met my second year at the Culinary Institute in New York. He was all charisma and ambition, hooked on my vision of gourmet food for regular folks. We clicked hard, both kids from blue-collar Michigan roots itching to break free. When Mom got hit with stage 3 cancer, Jake was my rock at first. I dropped out to care for her back in Lansing, juggling doctor visits and 2 jobs to keep us afloat. He stayed in New York, promising to swing by when he could. Spoiler, he didn't. "Long distance sucks," he'd say on late-night calls. "But we'll figure it out. You'll be back in New York once she's better." I clung to that, desperate for hope amid the chaos of Mom's 18-month fight. To cope, I started a food blog, whipping up recipes that were tasty and gentle for chemo patients. It blew up, connecting me with caregivers and survivors nationwide. When Mom went into remission, I was psyched to reunite with Jake and finish school. Then he dropped the bomb. "I've met someone," he said over the phone, casual as if he were picking takeout. "Her name's Victoria. She's on the James Beard board." "You're dumping me?" I choked out. "Let's be real, Sarah. You've been gone 2 years. Your career's dead in the water, and I'm linking up with people who matter." When I argued my blog was taking off, he snorted. "A cute little recipe page won't get you anywhere. Victoria's got me in with Michelin chefs. That's the game." Devastated, I hung up. Days later, I saw him on Instagram, arm around a polished woman in her 50s at some swanky gala. But I didn't wallow. I moved to Chicago, turned my blog into a meal kit line for cancer patients, and watched it grow from a scrappy startup to a legit business. Jake kept tabs, liking posts, dropping snide comments through mutual friends. I thought it was nostalgia, maybe guilt. I didn't see the resentment simmering. For years post-breakup, my company, Nourished by Sarah, was killing it. We'd branched into sauces and spices, landed a food and wine feature, and then Jake slid into my inbox. Congrats. Potential collab? He was exec chef at Victoria's new Manhattan Bistro, pitching my products for their shelves. Your story's a hit with our crowd, he wrote. Plus, it'd be cool to reconnect. I should have known better, but I met him in New York. The bistro was chic, and Jake strutted around in his chef whites like a peacock. You've done okay, he said, oozing condescension. Small time, but not bad for where you started. I swallowed a retort and focused on the deal, exposure, solid margins. Over lunch, he rewrote our past, painting himself as the wise ex who'd set me free to bloom. By dessert, he pitched an exclusive, my products only at his spot for a year, with room to scale if it worked. What about Victoria? I asked. His jaw tightened. We're just colleagues now. She's a mentor. Turns out, she dumped him a year prior but kept him on payroll. Tired of his swagger, a friend later dished. I signed the deal, hopeful he'd grown up. 3 days before launch, he bailed via email, postponing indefinitely. Stuff came up. No calls, no explanation. His sous chef spilled it. He'd bolted to Aspen, chasing another rich patron's gig. I was left with a warehouse of custom packaging and a company teetering on collapse. When I finally tracked him down, he was ice cold. Plans change, Sarah. Maybe stick to your blog. Not everyone's built for the majors. I sat in my office, drowning in debt and guilt, and let myself cry, not for him, but for trusting him again. Then I got mad. I'd save Nourish, my team, my dream. Jake Carter wouldn't ruin me twice. The fallout was brutal. 2 weeks cash, mountains of debt, useless stock. I hit up every contact, begging for a lifeline. Most offered pity, not help, until Maya Torres, an ex-blog fan turned Whole Harvest exec, called. Send me everything, she said. I see a fit. It was a start, but their onboarding took months. I needed weeks. I leveled with my team. I screwed up. I let an old flame blur my judgment, and now we're sinking. Instead of bailing, they rallied. Our marketing whiz, Lena, pitched a raw personal campaign. My story, Jake's betrayal, a Save Nourish pre-order push. Vulnerable? Hell yes. But it worked. Fans, bloggers, cancer communities, they showed up. Orders flooded in. Then Maya fast-tracked us into Whole Harvest holiday lineup, 30 stores. It wasn't salvation, but it bought time. Right then, an email ping from Eleanor H. at hargrovellc.com. Tasted your roasted garlic sauce at a friend's. Loved it, and your story. Hargrove Hospitality's boutique restaurants need artisanal brands like yours. Let's talk. Eleanor Hargrove was Midwest luxury royalty, hotels, dining, the works. We met at her sleek Michigan Avenue office. She was sharp, warm, and knew my journey cold. Your grit's inspiring, she said. She wanted my full line at the Hearth, her flagship Chicago spot, with expansion potential. The catch? Her new exec chef, Jake Carter. He's talented but arrogant, she said with a knowing smile. You two know each other? I spilled the messy history. She didn't flinch. That tracks with some doubts I've had. Still, your products stand alone. We inked the deal, but that night, Jake texted, congrats on Eleanor's gig. Small world. Dinner tomorrow to sync up. His smugness oozed through the screen. He thought he'd won again. Not this time. We met at a low-key bistro. You're looking decent, he said, eyeing my outfit like it was thrift store chic. I skipped the bait. Let's set ground rules for this. He grinned, ordering wine. Relax, Sarah. Your sauces get a glow up with my menu. Win-win. His vision was burying my products under his overblown dishes, my tomato sauce a footnote in his elevated chipino. When I pushed back, he sneered, this is fine dining, not your kitchen experiments. Then the kicker, Eleanor wants us doing press together. I'll handle the big leagues, you're out of your depth. I got home fuming. Lucas, my rock of a husband, was tinkering with recipes. How'd it go? He asked. Jake's still a jackass, I said. He hugged me tight. What's the play? Before I could answer, Eleanor emailed. Hope your chat with Jake went well. I've got concerns about our chef. Breakfast tomorrow. Lucas grinned. Eleanor Hargrove cuts dead weight. Bet she's sizing you up and him. At her penthouse, over croissants and killer coffee, Eleanor dropped a bombshell. I'm rethinking Jake's role. He's skilled but lacks soul. You though, your story. Your food sense, you could redefine the Hearth. She wasn't just offering a job. She wanted me as culinary director, co-creating the menu, leading the team, fronting the relaunch. It was a dream and a dagger to Jake's ego. I wavered, thinking him felt too close to his petty games. Then Jake texted, "Eleanor's all in on my plan. Congrats on supplying the big time." His gall vaporized my doubts. We kept him in the dark, letting him strut while I built a menu that sang, my products woven into a story of flavor and heart. 3 weeks out, Eleanor unveiled it to the staff. Jake preened, expecting praise until she said, "Sarah's our new culinary director. She's the vision." His face crumpled. "What's my role?" he snapped. "You'll report to Sarah," Eleanor said coolly. He stormed off, later quitting in a huff. She accepted it instantly. Clean slate, she told me. But chaos followed, green staff, a tight deadline. And then a venomous blog post from critic Derek Voss, fed by Jake. "The heart's a mess. Ex-chef Jake Carter out, replaced by Sarah Bennett. Untrained, untested. Reservations tanked." Eleanor was grim. "Perception's everything. I begged for 24 hours. I'd fight back with food. 7 years after Jake dumped me for Victoria. I was toasting the Hearth's second anniversary, and its Michelin star, at Lessons with Lucas, my husband of 18 months. My Hail Mary, a preview dinner for influencers, had flipped the narrative. Nourish just sold for a fortune, and I was culinary director for all Hargrove spots. Then I saw him. Jake with a glitzy older woman still chasing sugar mommies. "Well, Sarah Bennett," he sneered, strolling over. "Still playing pretend?" Lucas stood. "It's Sarah Daniels now. I'm Lucas Daniels, own this place among others." Jake blanched. "The Lucas Daniels?" "Yep," Lucas said, arm around me. "And Millie's husband. You know her work?" James Beard nods, 15 restaurants, grocery empire. Jake sputtered. "Congrats," he muttered. "I'm personal chef to Mrs. Elvira Thornton now." Lucas smirked. "The art scandal lady?" Jake fled to his table, deflated. Later, he slipped me a note. "Let's catch up. Got ideas?" I tossed it in the donation bin. I'd built my future. He could keep his past.